Hi, my name is Leah Day, and welcome to this video for the Building Blocks Quilt Along. Today we're going to be stitching grid lines and circuit board into our last Sawtooth star block. There's going to be a lot of lines of quilting going into this block, but I'm sure by this point you've pretty much gotten a hang of grid lines. I think circuit board might be the one that we really need to work on together to fit into the background of this block. So let me show you the design and kind of give you a game plan for how to move around it with the least amount of travel stitching. So here's our block and our quilting design, and you can see the star is filled with a 1/4 inch grid line. The lines are pretty close together, but this outer area has circuit board stitched on a 1/2 inch scale. So you want to roughly kind of guesstimate maybe the width of your finger, of your pinky finger, is how wide those stitches are apart. How wide the lines are apart. Just in case you're looking for this so you can mark your block, you can find it in the Building Blocks quilt pattern available at leahday.com. So here we go. You can see all the lines of stitching that are already in the block, and I missed this one line. This is the only line I'm missing on that one direction, so I'm going to have to figure out how to wiggle my way over there and knock that out. But for right now, what I'm going to concentrate on is wiggling over here. And when I say wiggle, I really mean just travel stitch in the ditch over to this line. I'm going to go back and forth with these lines, and then I'll rotate and start stitching right across the star. That's my plan. You can see how I'm changing direction now. I'm knocking out these little lines now to work across, and now I just have a little bit of travel stitching to this opposite direction, this perpendicular line. A lot of this, just kind of stop and take a look at it, see what you can hit, and see what you can fill to get you to the next space. Sometimes, as long as you're willing to change direction, it can kind of flow in a very logical way. Now, you might be looking at this and just saying, wow, those lines are really close together. I'm not sure I like a 1/4 inch grid. And that's perfectly fine. If you're not into this level of stitching, if you don't like it, don't like the look of it on the quilt, all you have to do is just mark only every other one. So mark this line, but don't mark that line, and go every other line within this, and that's perfectly fine too. You don't have to stitch on every single line that I've designed here. And at this point, I'm just going to concentrate on stitching my background filler, the circuit board, into this area. And I'm stitching this freehand. I did not mark it within this area. I'm going to stitch the circuit board on a 1/2 inch scale, and I'm going to work my way intentionally to butt up into this area so I can stitch that straight line across. That's how I'm going to flow through this area. That's how I'm going to knock that out. So let's get started. I'm going to kind of think this through just a minute, just to make sure that I know where I'm going and how I'm going to do it. I'm going to stitch straight lines and sharp angles. And I want to keep these roughly 1/2 inch apart. Sometimes, especially if I've been stitching on a smaller scale, I have to kind of reprogram my brain to think bigger. And it just takes a minute. You need a little touchstone, a little, something setting near your desk that will kind of remind you of the scale that we're stitching on. Definitely grab something. I kind of just look at my fingers. That works for me. You will see that I occasionally stitch beyond my perimeter line. Sometimes I stitch right on it, sometimes I stitch beyond it. That's perfectly fine. We're going to cut that off when these blocks are all done. So it's no big deal if you stitch outside of the lines a little bit. That's fine. It's okay if you stitch right on the line. That's okay too. But I think this looks roughly consistent. I'm going to stitch a little straight line right here, and then just travel stitch my way into that corner, into that little point right there, and then now straight across the block. Okay, so that is a good section of background knocked out, and that line across the middle. So what else do I have left? Well, I've got this background section, and I've got this line to hit too. So let me kind of plan this out, and I'm going to even grab a marking pencil. I do this a lot if I need to hit something exactly. And I also, I want to come in here and I want to knock out this whole section and fill it up so that it matches with, I kind of come maybe about that far away from that previous background filler, that circuit board over there. I want to make sure that I fill in so that I don't leave like a big hole or pocket right here. The freehand quilting, the reason I like to do it this way is because it, number one, it adds a little bit of randomness to the block that I wouldn't have if I planned it all out ahead of time. It also is a little faster. I don't have to sit there and mark everything when I just quilt with no lines at all. And I'm just memorizing, what I've memorized are the simple rules of the design. Stitch straight lines and sharp angles randomly through the area without crossing the line of quilting. It's basically stippling with right angles rather than curves. So now I'm going to work down in this area, just trying to fit it and fill it as consistently as possible without working myself into too bad of a corner. Kind of missed my line over there, what I was planning on doing. That's okay. Here's my kind of fix for that. I think I'm going to come over. It's a little bit of a smaller scale, what I just did right there, but I'm okay with that. And now I'm going to hit my planned lines. Listen to my machine as I stitch these sharp right angles. What I do is I kind of speed up at a medium speed when I'm stitching a straight line, and then I slow down ever so slightly as I make that turn, so that way it's a nice crisp, sharp turn, a nice 90-degree angle. So that's it for stitching grid lines and circuit board into our last Sawtooth star. I really hope that you enjoyed kind of the way I changed up this video and showed you some free motion filling of circuit board and some quilting on the line. This is how I would stitch this block if I was just sitting at my sewing machine and kind of running through it. So my name is Leah Day, and this has been a video for the Building Blocks Quilt Along. Pick up your copy of the Building Blocks quilt pattern and join us as we learn how to piece and free motion quilt 42 beautiful blocks together. You can pick up your pattern at leahday.com. Until next time, let's go quilt!